Okay, I would be pretty happy with that drive, just turning over, but I reckon that will be in a fairway. And I want to have a look at the data that we're getting from the full swing sim. Carry 302, I'd be over the moon with that. Now there's one number there, which is absolutely vital for me to get the most distance out of my driver. Can you guess what it is? Obviously speeds are important, but the one that's often overlooked would be this number here, which is the backspin. So you can see it was 2,744, which for me is about perfect. When I asked recently, the majority of golfers didn't know what their spin was with driver. There's a very, very good chance that your spin will be too high, and if it is, it doesn't matter how hard you swing, you're not going to get the maximum distance out of your driver. So in this video, I'm going to teach you two really, really simple ways that you can reduce your spin, which is going to give you more distance without you having to swing the club any harder. So what I'm going to do on this one is I'm very simply going to make the exact same golf swing. However, I'm going to make one change, which is at setup, I'm going to open the club face. And I'm going to open that a fair bit, maybe 5-6 degrees. So everything looks normal. The face obviously looks very, very strange because it's way open, but I'm going to try and make the same golf swing that I just made, but with that club face way open. Okay, definitely not as good a drive. Higher, way out to the right. 4,462, way down on carry. Yes, ball speed was down a little bit. This is the key number. So why was my spin so high? Well, spin comes from a number of different places, but basically when you open the club face, you also increase the loft of the driver. And we know that when we've got more loft in our hands, we increase spin. So if you've got more loft, you've got more spin. There's a very good chance that if you're struggling with your driver or lacking distance, you will have a club path which is to the left of the target. A left path basically means that your golf club is traveling somewhere over here relative to your target. So when I have that left path, I have to play with a club face which is open. So when I swing to the left, relative to that path, I have to open the club face. What I then get is a more functional ball flight, something that travels left to target and curves back. But what we've already explained at the start is that when we open that face, we get that spin rate climbing really, really high. So if you're someone who swings to the left, you will have to then have a more open face relative to that swing. You are introducing this really, really high spin rate. What I'd love you to do is have a go at this rehearsal. I'm going to make a normal backswing, and then from here, I'm going to be trying to get the sole of the golf club to bounce over the golf ball, like this. What I'm actually doing here is I'm looking at an area on the ground some 6 to 8 inches behind the golf ball and just inside the golf ball, so around about this area here. And what I'm really focused on is the sole of the golf club. Because if I can get the sole of the golf club to land in that area, I can get it to bounce over the golf ball. Now I can feel that that's the sole of the golf club. That's very different to me crashing the leading edge down. That's a very steep swing. The idea of this little exercise is trying to get you from the top to shallow the golf club more, have the golf club lower to the ground much sooner in the downswing, which allows you to then bounce the club over the golf ball. Many of you who struggle with driver, if I said to you, where do you feel like the club could hit the ground? Many of you would say it's going to be target side because you're steep, you're over the top. That's going to be what you feel is the most likely place for your driver to hit the ground. Now what this is doing is it's changing path. If we change path, there's a very, very good chance that we also need to change club face. So the first little exercise I'd love you to do in practice at the driving range is to set up. I've got my target down there, which is that line that's painted on the Full Swing Studio screen, and I'm going to basically make a golf swing where I feel like I'm going to make that rehearsal, bounce the club, do that a couple of times, bounce the club, and then I'm going to try and hit a shot which goes way out to the right of my target, like that, but it was straight. That is called a push, which is the club traveling out to the right, and that's where my ball went. So my spin will be pretty good there. It certainly won't be in the 4,000s. 2,800. So that is me changing my club path. And when we change the club path to being slightly out to the right, now what do I need to do with the club face? Well, I now don't need it open, because if I swing right with an open face, I'm going to be in the trees on the right. So now I'm encouraged to start to turn that toe over, to get that club face rotating. And as we start to rotate that face, what are we doing to the loft of the driver? We are decreasing it. So we're now starting to create a situation where the path is more to the right, the face is more closed. That's a recipe for lower spin. So on this one, I'm going to see if I can hit a shot and see how low I can get my spin. I'm going to do that by doing that rehearsal and then trying to get the club face over. And we should see some very, very different spin numbers. So I'm going to do my rehearsal twice. Up, bounce, up, bounce. And you'll probably see when I do that, there's a big kind of loop in my golf swing. Absolutely fine in rehearsals. Let's see if we can do that. Get the face turning over and reduce that spin. Okay, there we see it. Ball starts right, turns over. That's exactly what I was trying to do in that little exercise. What's my spin? 2,300. So what was I predicting? I was predicting lower spin. What did I get? Lower spin. That's the first thing I want you to do to try and control the spin. The second thing, which is massively going to influence that spin and cause it to shoot really high, is if you're hitting the wrong part of the golf club. As we start to move the strike around the club face, the spin really, really changes. Now, I did a recent poll, and this is the result. Pretty split. Not many people knew exactly where the strike needed to be to reduce the spin. If you start to hit low in the club face or towards the heel, you are going to start to see that spin really, really shoot up. Now, the TaylorMade driver that I've got is fantastically well designed. It's got the twist face design, which really changes and helps that, but I can't get away from the fact that if you hit heel or low, you're going to get some really, really excessive spin. So let's quickly go through how you can train yourself to hit more towards the toe and higher, because if you can start to move your strike even slightly toe side and slightly above center, that spin's going to come down, you're going to see your distance go up. You can see that I've used just a driving range tee, and when I set my club in behind the golf ball, you can see that if I was to deliver this golf club and hit the toe of the club, I would also hit the tee that's here. If I was to deliver and hit the heel of the golf club, you can see that I could quite happily do that, hit the heel, and the tee would stay in place. So I can create a little situation where when I make a golf swing, I'm going to get some feedback as to what I did. If I stand here and strike this ball well out the heel of the golf club, terrible shot, but the tee stayed in place. So straight away, I know that that was a really poor strike and it was out towards the heel. My goal, and bearing in mind this is just training, this is what you do in practice, would be to see if I can make a golf swing and strike the toe of the golf club, which would mean that I would also hit the tee peg. So let's go ahead and see if I can do that. Okay, ball flight was much better, much higher. It's probably the straightest one I've hit today actually, and tee got moved. So that actually did feel pretty central to me, so that probably wouldn't have been that far out the toe. What did it do to my spin? You can see there, 2,600, that's actually pretty good. I was really trying to get it way more out of the toe, which would have reduced the spin more. But if you can train yourself to hit different parts of the golf club, what's going to control the spin is you. You're going to have control over that. Because so many golfers who have that pattern of over the top, out to in and downward, like we spoke about at the start of the video, also have heel strikes. If you're getting that strike rate, high 3,000s, even into the 4,000s, you are giving up so much yardage. The final thing that we need to talk about is strike point, high or low. Now, how's the easiest way to change that? Tee height. If you start to tee the ball a little higher, guess what? You're going to get it a little higher in the face. That's going to reduce the spin. You start to tee it down, you're going to get it low in the face and possibly even towards the heel as well. So let's make sure that the tee height is nice and high. So I'm going to peg this one just a little higher than I would normally. You can see that's, half to 3/4 of the ball above the club face. That's going to help me strike higher in the face. If I can now make sure that I've got my rehearsal where I'm bouncing the club over the ball, which is shallowing my swing, I should be able to produce a shot where the spin is in that kind of 2,000s, 2,500. And that one might even land on the line. Oh, go on, get a bit left. Well, that's pretty straight, and I'm guessing that's going to be pretty much where I need it. 2.5, 2,600, 2,700, 2,300 spin. That's perfect for me. That's going to give me long drives, 303 carry. You can get more yardage by controlling your spin.